Welcome back to the Screen Love Affair podcast. And today we have special guest, many times mentioned on the podcast, Kevin. Kevin is a horror bro. He is a guy who I often find letterbox reviewing all the slashers and horror flicks that I've been putting on my watch list. And 90% of the time, I would say I line up with him pretty well. However, this
We're
week,
good together.
yeah, we're pretty good. But this week, we're discussing The Black Phone 2. And we might have some disagreements. So welcome to the podcast, Kevin.
Thank you. Glad to be here. That's going to be a fun one. 2 for 1, so should be good.
Kevin's been talked about since the early days of the podcast. I've never met someone that purely watches a singular genre to the level that this guy does.
That's all I do.
Pure horror, and he always hits me with did you see this obscure Taiwanese horror movie from 1981? And I'm like, what? I've never heard of that in my life.
Yeah, I got a good period on a Thai horror movie. I'm out of it though, but I'm probably going to get back to it. Netflix got one out actually, so I might get back to it.
Well, if all you watch is horror, I feel like there's so much in that genre. If you're going to commit to one, that's definitely the one to do. But yes, we're here to discuss Black Phone 2, which I think we've talked very lightly. Kevin and I went to see this movie together in Montreal, and Brandon went to see it. I don't know if were you who did you see this with?
I leaped through hoops and bounds to see this movie this week. I'm in the middle of moving, as you can tell by the one piece of art on my wall. I fought a homeless guy on the subway, got to the Yonge and Dundas Theater, which is like the Times Square of Toronto, and I went to go see it all by myself and sat through what I felt to be the incredibly long 2-hour runtime or whatever it was. And it was. And then, that was it. I saw it solo, as you can tell by my tone. That maybe didn't add a ton of fun for me. But
Solo's the best though.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong. I love seeing a movie by myself. I think that's a great way to kind of almost meditate and find balance. I saw Frankenstein yesterday, pretty much also solo, but it was after a long, stressful 2-3 days of moving, and it was almost necessary because I felt like I could reset and have a little bit of fun and escapism. Which I'll admit now, I did not think I found in Black Phone 2. Could have just been because I was in such a elevated state of panic and literally almost got in a bum fight on the way to the movie. But long story short, I definitely did not get the value I thought I would get out of the sequel. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys thought, what your theater experience was like. Mine was mediocre.
So you like Frankenstein better than this?
I would boldly say I think Frankenstein was a fantastic, dramatic, theatrical epic with amazing sets and performances, where this movie was like it was a movie, I guess. I wish this was the streaming movie and not Frankenstein, if I'm being honest. This is the movie that I feel like I did not need to rush out to a theater to see. Felt like it was the most unnecessary sequel I've seen in a long time, because the first movie wrapped things up pretty well. It was a short story. They made a movie out of it. Now they're sequeling it. From what content are they doing that? I didn't think that it was clever enough to warrant the whole runtime, if I'm being honest. But
we'll dig into it. Kevin, give your spoiler-free thoughts though beforehand.
It was useless because the first one closed pretty good, and the second one also closes pretty good also. But I read something about the director and the writer that were they like to close the movies to be a single one, and then if another one comes in, then they're just gonna do it. I didn't like the first one personally, much. I think I gave it 2.5, maybe 3. It was fine. Nothing really happens. We don't know what he's doing. He's just like a regular dude, shirtless, waiting for the guy upstairs. I'm it was okay. The mask was dope, though. But the second one was just so good. So much better than the first one. You just pumped it up. They just went for it. Bloodier, more kills. It was amazing.
I would actually say, because I did like the first one. I had low expectations. I saw it on streaming, and I was like, oh, what a simple little movie. That was enjoyable. So when I went to the second one, I was expecting it to be really enjoyable. But I would say I agree with you there. The kills and some of the fantastical elements of this one that were lacking in the first one were a pro for sure. Definitely more fun with it, more fun with the gore. But yeah. What about you, Shea? What was your takeaway?
Well, I normally would have rewatched the first one in advance, but I will say, Kevin and I talked about this. The first Black Phone was the last movie I got to see in theaters with my grandma. And so I remember watching it with her, though, at the time and thinking it was like good enough. And I did rate it. I logged it on my letterbox and back then, and I did give it a 3.5, which I think adjusted for Shayflation would probably be closer to a 3 at this point. Because my memory of that movie is that I also liked this one more. I would want to revisit it again to be sure of that, but yeah, like I remember thinking that like Ethan Hawke was great, but otherwise there was some interesting concepts. Like it was interesting enough, but like just not one that like really stuck with me and I thought a lot about afterwards. To say that like it didn't need a sequel is totally fair. Like again, it was very contained and wrapped. But there was, I guess, enough of a push that people were interested to see a little bit more. But as far as having nothing to adapt from, I believe they took quite a few. Like, I believe this is just like a very small short story that was adapted. And so a lot of the stuff that they did, I don't know, how faithful of an adaptation it was, but I think they took liberties, and I don't necessarily think that that is a knock on this. And I think breaking away from any sort of potential source material in terms of, I don't even want to give it away about like how he's back and all of this concepts in the spoiler free section, but I really love the way they did that, the way they showcased it visually. And while I will admit with you too that it did take a bit of time to build there, once we really got into it, I was totally in. And so yeah, this was a movie that I really liked. It didn't quite hit the love, and I think a lot of it is at that beginning and some like character beats again, especially towards the end, which I was more mixed on, but we'll get into that. But yeah, I think overall, yeah, I was like, I had fun with this movie. I liked it. I feel like you have to be such a miserable Brandon hater to hate both the monkey and the final sequence in particular in this
Oh, I
movie.
hated the monkey so bad.
Ah, see, there we
Man,
go.
I
Well,
rewatched it like
Kevin
a month
has to
ago,
come
bro.
back. When we watch The Monkey 2 for the podcast in 2 years, we'll have to bring Kevin back on.
Even though he's not from the same sack, he's always got my back when it comes to hating the monkey too.
Oh, man.
But actually, I was just gonna say before we kind of like put up the big spoiler warning and get into like the nitty gritty. One thing that I was really laughing at was I was at a Firehouse Subs getting a large fountain drink, and they had this big promotion there, and this is like everywhere else too. I think it's like Fanta is doing a thing where they're taking all like the slasher icons and putting them on soda drinks.
Yeah.
I forget which the flavor was. Obviously, this is my like take here, like the podcast, like residential fast food guy. I was like, I only noticed the marketing because of the fast food, but they have a Black Phone 2, like Ethan Hawke's character with the mask and stuff, the grabber, as like an iconic horror villain. And not that I don't think it's undeserved, but I felt like the first movie was so quiet and like, compact and contained. I wouldn't have compared him to like, I mean, now I do, as we'll get into it. I wouldn't have compared him to like Freddy Krueger or Jason or Ghostface. I think the second movie adds a lot to his like spooky factor, and like other big horror movies with slashers or whatever. Obviously, as time goes on, even if the entries aren't that good, like thinking of the Hellraiser films that are like straight to VHS after like the third or fourth, fifth one, sixth one. Obviously, Hellraiser's iconic, even if the sequels weren't great. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't know. Do you guys think the grabber with his look and with the success of the movies, in your opinion, is a horror icon in the same vein as like a Freddy, Jason, Ghostface from Scream? Because I didn't feel that way, but I do think it's a good design.
I love the guy, but no, not yet though. Yes, you have like a lot of more kills. Like we haven't really seen killing anybody in the most movies at all. Like I think we saw like we'll talk about it later, but yeah, we haven't seen anyone killed by the guy, and it could have, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So we need like a few more movies about him just going more slasher, because there wasn't no slashing whatsoever in both movies. He's not
Yeah.
like a horror icon yet. I'd say Art the Clown is like way up there,
Exactly. Yeah.
way more than the Grabber. But the Grabber is going to get there eventually, probably, if they make a third one,
100%.
which I hope they make. And they're
Yeah.
probably going to make it.
I definitely agree with the Art the Clown thing, because I was trying to think of a contemporary horror villain who matches that freak, so to speak. And Art the
Yeah.
Clown is much more modern, like in the last 10 years, compared to, again, like somebody like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point for sure.
It's the only one we got since Ghostface, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. That's 100% accurate. I'm a huge Ghostface fan, so I was kind of like,
Well,
a good mask goes a long way. Yeah.
Allow me to push back a little bit on this, because I tend to agree. Like, he's definitely not in the same ballpark at all as any of the classics. But again, they have decades and decades, or even technically, Scream is now entering its third decade, right? So
we're getting old, boys.
That's a lot. That's a long time to establish yourself. I think he has all the makings of it. Ethan Hawke is phenomenal in the role. It is an iconic look, and the bottom of the mask swapping out, like, it's easily iconic. And again, you guys mentioned Art the Clown. I feel like this is a blindness possibly that the three of us had, because I would have agreed with you. And then out of curiosity, I was looking at the box office for these movies. And the last one, the first original Black Phone, made $161 million on like a $16 million budget, which by like horror standards is phenomenal. I think Terrifier 3 only maxed out at 90. So again, like in terms of general population. Well, no. But in terms of general, like, sense of the popularity of the character, I also could be wrong on this, because I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 85% sure that the Grabber was also in Fortnite, which will significantly contribute to your cultural relevance. So I mean, like, again, it's up there. Is it on the same level? I don't think so, but I think certainly in the more recent ones, it's the most likely character to have that kind of longevity, I think. But with Art the Clown, for sure, I think those are the
for horror fans. I think Art the Clown is way more up there than the Grabber.
I would agree,
because you go like to the what's the store of the Halloween costume shit? What's the store of the Halloween?
Spirit Halloween.
Spirit Halloween has shelves of like Art the Clown stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe like a little tiny box of the Grabber. Yeah.
On a side note, I met my girlfriend at an art gallery that was doing like a raunchy film festival, where they play like one of my friend's movies that I helped with was called like The Milkman, where it's about a guy delivering milk, and he basically gets mistaken for a male prostitute, because who delivers milk these days? So anyways, that was our bit. But we went to this place, and it was a pretty big gambit of like different raunchy films, and one of them was straight up, I'm pretty sure, a home sex tape where a guy was wearing an Art the Clown Halloween costume, and this was played at like an art gallery theater with like 50 people there, at least minimum, probably 100 people, and it was just like some sort of like EDM remix of like some sort of Juggalo song, and like there's a like that was the whole thing. We're watching like these movies that are comical and like a little bit raunchy. You don't really see anything that's just implied, and then all of a sudden it's like basically hardcore pornography. And at the end of every screening, the director comes up to talk about it. It was just like this girl and her boyfriend. They're like, yeah, so we didn't really understand the guidelines. But thanks for showing our movie. Glad you all liked it. Got a roaring applause. And I was like, yeah, and the art gallery did not care. They were like, oh, perfect. More screeners, you know. But anyways, good time. But yeah, I always think of Art the Clown and his cultural relevance, because like that's where we're at. That was before Terrifier 3, and like that was still like, again, the kinky Halloween couple from that will always have that burned in my brain. So not to
if they make a phone about it, you know, like it's up there.
Exactly. That was my thing too with Halloween 2018, like the reboot of it. Is around that time I was seeing a lot of porn parody on the old hub, if you will. And I kept seeing a lot of videos that had no good lore. It was like poorly lit. It was just a guy in a costume in a garage. And all I could think is like, they need better costuming and story writing in porn parodies. Those died out. When it became pro amateur on the internet, they stopped caring about good dialogue and setting, you know?
I think you need to
So
change your porn category, maybe.
I think that's probably the real problem. I
Maybe.
was saying, like, as a filmmaker, I should really get into porn, not for the obvious reason, but for all those ideas of improving the lighting and storytelling and costumes and
Yeah.
set deck. You know, make it look a little bit more realized, not just like an Airbnb or whatever with a guy in a Halloween costume. But
Yeah.
anyways, I've derailed this way too much.
If you
But
ever needed proof that
Let's
we
carry
only
on.
do this podcast for the love of the game, Brandon talking about his porn habits and possibly getting into it for cinematic purposes, I think monetization is not top of our mind, as you can evidently tell.
Nope.
But no, that's what sets us apart. But no, let's dig into this. I mean, listen. I want to be fair to Brandon. There's two of us. We both really enjoyed the movie. Brandon did not. So I think it's only fair, Brandon, if you want to kick off digging into the spoilers now of what really didn't work for you here.
Okay, so now that we're in the spoiler half, and I feel pretty confident airing my dirty laundry, I would say I'll start with the pros. Like any good HR firing, I'm going to tell you how great you were for the company. But basically, I did really enjoy, again, the visuals and the way they would do this floating camera, and you would see the people appearing around the phone booth. I felt like the phone booth was really cool. This movie was shot in and around Toronto and Northern Ontario. A lot of my friends worked on this project, so I work in IATI 873. So this is a movie where the whole art department, set deck, scenic, grips, electrics, cameras, IATI 667. So again, it's a very Toronto crude movie as far as like the crew who worked on it, and I was really excited for this one. This one was on my radar for that reason, and Shea was one that was like, I don't know if it's really going to be on the radar, but I was like, we have to. It's going to be Toronto film technician pride. But the actual story of the movie is where I think I have my biggest gripe. I didn't necessarily find it super engaging, and it did drag a little bit for me. And I would say my ultimate like gripe is they could have cut the first 15 minutes and maybe the last 10 to 15 minutes. Like when it fades to black on the lake and then it goes to like the next day kind of thing. I was like, I didn't care for that. I didn't care that the mom calls at the end to be like, I love you. I was just like, you killed the grabber, and the cool stuff was cool. But every time I felt like, oh, okay, they're like, let's grind to a halt and have a lore dump and talk about our feelings. And the amount of times where even near the start where it was just like, they're catching us up. And every movie needs to do that. I think they could have just started at the winter camp, and the dad could have just been like, hey, I'm sober now, and I've been trying to get my shit together. I'm dropping you kids off at the camp your mom went to. I think it's a great time for you guys to connect because Finn, you're getting in too much trouble, and daughter, you look after your brother. He's going through it. And then, they could have just picked up from there, but instead there's like 15, 20 minutes at the start where they're doing this thing where they're she's doing the sleepwalking dreaming thing, and they're setting up all that stuff. You could have just, she's dreaming about the camp from her bedroom, and then they seek out the camp. And that feels like, again, a dumb horror movie choice of like, I have nightmares about this horrible place. Let's go there in a blizzard. And then I can have nightmares in person at the place I'm having nightmares of. So I guess, yeah, a part of me was a little bit like, the movie could have just set us up to be a little tighter and enjoy the cool stuff quicker. I did like a lot of the buildup at the start in that sense where they're doing new mechanics. They're using her like clairvoyance, dream walking stuff. But I think, again, my other big gripe, and then I think I'll open the floor because there's more specifics, but I'm trying to be general with my gripes in the spoiler half here. But this movie was good, but it just evoked feelings of other movies I found a lot better. So for a big one, as we were alluding to, this is basically Nightmare on Elm Street. It's basically Dream Warriors Nightmare on Elm Street, specifically the fourth entrance, where it is basically just like, if you get hurt in the dream, you get hurt in real life. If we hurt him in the dream world, we hurt him in real life. Like it became that. And there's this part where, like she's spinning around. It's all cool stuff, but it did remind me a lot more of like the Nightmare on Elm Street element and all the like 8mm film effects they were doing. It felt like a gimmick as they kept going on, like as it became such an integral part, to the point where I was like, I really liked Sinister. Sinister was good, and Sinister had some great scares, and they used another like film grain effect thing. Also had Ethan Hawke, and it felt a little bit more natural. Where
Also
here it just
Scott
felt like it was a
Derrickson.
stylistic choice. What?
It was the same director too.
Oh, was it actually? That's so much funnier. Yeah, well, so it reminded me a lot of Sinister, but I found like I like Sinister scared the like hell out of me. Like I actually had like night terrors from that movie, and I've never seen a movie and had a bad dream after, except for Sinister, and I was probably like 18, so I was like that was a high bar of like wow, I really like that movie. So yeah, this movie, I guess my gripe is this movie is trying to be Nightmare on Elm Street. It's trying to be Sinister. It's also trying to be Insidious, which again is like they're using that like upside down or like astral realm aspect. So it felt like three movies that I really liked and using like different elements of those, but just with the overarching story, I just felt like it's like thin that down, tighten that up, and then maybe I would have really appreciated the other stuff. But it just felt like the times in between that stuff, I wasn't really like latching on or caring. I just felt like I was like, I get it, dude. You're traumatized, but please, can we get the phone ringing again? Can we get more of the grabber? Can I actually see Ethan Hawke's face one time this movie? I don't think I saw him one time. I think they did this is my bit here. I think they did the Mandalorian thing here. They got his voice and they stunt doubled him the rest of the whole movie. I wanted to talk to people about this that worked on it, but it's like, how often was he actually on set? I feel like we never actually saw Ethan Hawke at all. It was a phenomenal voice acting, but I definitely felt like it was a stunt double when they had the split mask effect, because it didn't quite register to me that that was him. Could just be me. I was really tired when I saw this and I like having a terrible week, but yeah, I wanted more Ethan Hawke. And again, I felt his performance, but I don't really think he was in it. Like I didn't see him chewing the scenery as much as it was like a great ADR and phone sequences and with tons of, audio and visual manipulation with the grain and the analog glitching and stuff. So again, these are all kind of nitpicks, but I just think I could have really loved the movie for a lot of like what we actually see in the action and the set pieces. But I did feel like everything else was just stretching it really thin for me, and that's why I said it's like source material wise. For me, it felt stretched thin because the grade stuff was really good, but I felt like I was almost like rolling my eyes waiting. I always joke about the bathroom break you take at the end of the second act when you're like, oh, they're about to have one more pep talk. And then I can go to the bathroom because they're just going to say what we already know and reaffirm each other, the values that they're trying to have. And then they're going to get to the final scene. And for me in this movie, there's a few of them, but the one I actually took was when the camp counselor, the older Latino guy, goes up to Finn, who's smoking weed, and he's like, oh, the devil's lettuce, eh? You're a good kid. I was like, oh, this is going to be a 5-minute scene that is not going to add much more to the story or like what we need to know. It's just going to be like a literal pep talk before they do the thing to end the movie. I came back, and sure enough, he was out on the ice digging for the boy, and that's when the action was rising, and that led to the big final action piece that I really liked. But again, I felt like there's a lot of bathroom break appropriate moments, even though it didn't have to go that badly. In fact, I was kind of looking forward to a moment to just be like, I don't know. I definitely felt spread thin on plot, and I didn't care for the characters nearly as much. Where in the first movie, maybe because the children were more childlike, and Ethan Hawke was such a menacing character in person with the mask and without the mask. I felt like it was more realized. Where here, I was just like, they're sequeling really hard, and I don't know if the story could support the elevated aspects that I appreciated. So thanks for listening to my TED Talk on why I didn't love the Black Phone 2.
Yeah, well, before I go on and go on on the 5-year-old that dictates his movie choices by what's the appropriate time to go to the bathroom because he can't hold his bladder like an adult. Kevin, why don't you take your initial response on that front?
Yeah, I agree with you though that the first part, the first 15 minutes were a little too long. There was a long bit of stretching out about going to the cabin. And why would Ernesto, was it? Is
Yeah,
his name? Ernesto. Why would he tag along? Where is coming from? He's like super useless in the whole movie. I don't know why he's there.
Protect my sister could not protect his sister at all.
No, you
Could
failed
not
the
wake
only
her
task
up.
that was given to you. I'm like,
To be
bro.
fair, Ernesto was a great Rizzler, eh? He was smooth with it. Like he was for a 1970s like schoolboy. He said all the right things. I feel he was putting in some good work on his sister.
You're hot talking about Jesus. I'm like, yeah, okay.
My mom likes a Catholic girl, and she's like, "Well, I'm a Christian," and I was like, she doesn't care. But Ernesto's trying his best.
But yeah, Gwen was amazing in this one. Though they focus more on like they're trying to be like the final girl kind of vibe slasher thing, and put in like Finn on the side a little bit. That I like because she's more interesting than him. He's just a smoker now and with like way too much trauma. I'm like, oh, okay, get over it, bro. I think the span was 7 years between the first one and the second one. Like in the movie wise, I think within it was like 7 years or something. Because I think she's 15 or 16 in the movie, and she was 8 back then, something like that.
Yeah.
But yes, she had time to grow up and to like maybe work on her telekinesis a little bit by the end, or I don't know, her powers kind of thing. What I like, yeah, it was a bit slow. I gotta agree, though. But the parts with the grabber were just like they was taking over the slower bits that I just forgot about.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
The grabber and the action it really helped you get over the parts you weren't liking, which is I think would pass the bar for a lot of people. For me, I wasn't fully diving. I do want to agree with you though. I do think the performances from the younger actors, like all the actors, like there's not really a
No.
bad performance in the movie. That's why I think it was definitely more like with the writing of like, let's have one more scene where Finn talks about being traumatized or whatever. That was really starting to bother me. So I do agree though, the kids or teens did a great job. But what about you, Mr. Eye Roll?
All right, well, fuck. And I'm going to explore. Well, first of all, before I go in at Brandon here, I have to say, Brandon, I wouldn't expect Kevin to have recognized this, but I thought I was teleporting or someone spiked my Coke Zero or something, because when they arrived at the camp, I'm going to butcher the dude's name, but he played Armando.
Mondo.
Demian Bashir, I think is how you would pronounce that. I'm probably way off, but he played Armando. That's the same guy that was in Hateful Eight. That was also the guy that greeted them that when they arrive at the haberdashery or whatever.
No way.
It was the same dude. So then when he starts like, oh, what are you doing? You gotta come. And I was like, what the fuck am I? Like, I just started tweaking out. I'm like, is that the same guy also welcoming people in the middle of a winter storm to an isolated
He's in the Nun
cabin?
too, also. He's
And
like
it
the preacher
was.
in the Nun too.
No.
So
He's
it
everywhere.
was the same guy, which killed me. So that was the first bit that I wanted to make sure we brought up. But no, so I mean, okay, I again largely agree that the build at the beginning, particularly upwards to the first half, was not paced well and it was a little slow. I was more, I guess I was just overall like less bothered by the stuff that you mentioned. Like normally I'm always the one in a horror movie where it's something that's more straightforward. Like again, we brought up Abigail, like all these movies where it's like, okay, here's the setup and then here's these things. But I felt like the more serious kind of character development moments, like when you were coming in on Finney there, I really only remember him having one moment really where he expresses at all about how he's feeling, and it's when he explodes at his sister at the very end. A lot of it is him just quietly swallowing it and just kind of stewing in it. And so I thought, like, for me, the character stuff really here worked for me enough. I wouldn't say like I loved it. I wasn't like, oh, like I didn't have all these bits, but they gave me enough for the other kind of plot beats to really kind of hit in a way that I think I'm giving this script a lot more credit than I think you are too, in terms of you're like calling it sequely. I thought they built upon all of this in a pretty clever way that I'm like, I couldn't believe, frankly, that they lucked out. For a movie that, like I said, I remember feeling very self-contained, for the fact that they kind of brought back in the mother and the circumstances around her death in a way that didn't feel, and to me, as like too overwhelmingly like convoluted. Like
You
it
like
would
that
have.
retcon, that sequel turns out everything, you are the chosen one. You know, like that felt a little sequely.
No, but it
like,
makes sense okay, sure. Like I'm not saying it doesn't mean it can't be justified, but like for the story, it wasn't a series of events that like, there's no fucking way. Like they had to retcon, oh, actually for the timing for that to work out, it had to be 34 years ago. Like it made total sense for that bit. And
they did
like
it in a clever way. Well, that's good.
and like to add to it, I think the difference in how they handle the sister and the mother, I think, is also super important. Where the sister has her brother, has this boyfriend that is aware of her gift or whatever, that's another whole bit of the movie, but is aware of what she can do and is more supportive of that, where the whole narrative around the mother was that she was a fucking Looney Tune, she was crazy. And so, like, the
Her
fact that
husband
she
was an
would just,
alcoholic who didn't pay attention to that
right.
thing. Yeah.
And the
I get
fact that
that.
she would go to the house on her own, being like, is that like, makes sense because she had nobody else. It's not like she'd wake up her brother and be like, hey, I'm pretty fucking sure something's going on here. Like, she didn't have that outlet. So, like, for me, it worked without feeling like, oh my God, they just had to like find an extra way in and stuff like that. And I will push back. Like, I don't know, but I'm very confident, at least for the first, I'd say the two larger chunks of the movie where, like, save for the action scene, I guess, at the very end, I was actually fairly confident that was Ethan Hawke, just because of the physical mannerisms, like the way he slowly emerges when he's on the phone and then the sister is now in the kitchen. Like, there was just kind of like, I could, like, that was an actor. That was, and if this wasn't it, I'll be blown away and someone hire this stunt double, because was amazing. But I'm like, just the presence of that character for that, I really felt like in those chunks before the ice skating sequence at the end were really kind of perfect. And the last thing, I guess, before we dig into the other bits, is I really wanted to push back on your complaints around the use of the, was it the Super 8 camera?
Just like how it's the visuals.
Oh, I
to
thought that was
differentiate.
so fucking sweet. I loved that because also
I love the
for
mix between the
me,
two.
right, and for me, like, as a certified skinamarink guy, I love the old school, like, the crackly feel of that has an inherent thing about it that draws more fear. Not like I was on the edge of my seat by any stretch, but like, it draws out more of that weird sort of feeling. And I think it was a very clever way to demonstrate a dream that's not like some very obvious, like, the sky is pink and it's like very obvious lighting cues, or some like, like I'm watching Better Call Saul now, and it's like when we do a flashback, it's very blue. Like all the lighting, everything is very blue. So like, I just like I thought that was a very neat way that also worked to draw those feelings out of me a little bit more, and have this sort of surrealistic feeling, but still be grounded in a way that kind of made sense. So like, the fact that it was crackly and the handheld nature of it, especially when they use it in the flashbacks of the killing of all these kids, I thought that was just like really eerie and unsettling, and is clearly something he likes in the vein of Sinister and all of this other thing too. So it's definitely a trademark, I guess you could say, at this point for him. But I thought for me it was just a fun, interesting little way to have some differentiation without it being as like obnoxious as digital effects or some weird lighting thing.
To me, it wasn't really about showing that it's going to be a dream. I think it was more about announcing that the grabber is around, that we're in this world now. And it's like the same thing that reminds me about Paranormal Activity. Like, something's coming up because the timing is there and the camera is there, and like it's coming up. So it gets you a little more pumped about it, a little more tension. And also they did with the score, that's pretty much the same thing. And they kept the score within the old dream sequences mostly. So that was something that was even more, that would put up more about the tension in the whole grabber area nightmare thingy.
To actually ask Kevin, because Kevin, you do compose some like soundtracks and score and elemental pieces and stuff like that. I was going to say, I did notice a few points the score was really good. It felt like it was few and far in between. It wasn't used super like, it wasn't a very like intense score, but when it was intense, I really enjoyed it and I could catch it and pick it out. What are your thoughts on, like, again, the music and the use of it and stuff like that?
I actually spent the whole day listening to it on Spotify. And
Amazing.
yeah, I think this is one of the scores that worked mostly with the movie. I didn't like it that much on its own compared to I mostly listened to like the Sinister 2 soundtrack.
Mm.
That was great on its own, or like the whole Halloween 1, 2, 3, like the remake. Well, not the remake, like the new trilogy they did a few years
Hmm.
ago. This John Carpenter's. It's like you can't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like Tarot and Night Swim. So those scores can be listened to on their own in your headphones. But yeah, the score about the Black Phone 2 is a little more ambient and more about sounds alone, that more melodic that I like maybe about John Carpenter. But yeah, it was a good score within the movie. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say too, what you guys were both saying, with the 8 millimeter and the familiarity to Sinister. One thing I found with Sinister was it was so much more, in my opinion, atmospheric, that when there was something that was a little bit more jump scare uh, qualifying, like I feel like that's a big conversation with horror movies, is when is a jump scare really earned or not. And I felt like in Sinister, there was like the whole movie would set up these like, he's playing the tape or he's playing the film reel, and you just start leaning in, and eventually it's horrifying. And I found like the best ones are when it was subtle, where it'd just be like, not like a big like the lawnmower in Sinister, when it's like he's just cutting the lawn and then hits the head. The closest thing in the movie for this one, I would say, is when she's having her first night in the cabin, and it's really creepy, and then she goes to like look under the bed. I'm not gonna lie, it scared the shit out of me, but I also like, and I'm not one to do like jump scares suck because I get really scared. But that was one where I was like, it scared the shit out of me. But I was like, that felt very like jump scare, like wah, like loud music. Meanwhile, the scarier scenes I felt like were like really good. Where a lot more of like the slow pans of the camera and the atmospheric stuff, where you see the dead boys appearing in sequence and stuff. And when you see one dead boy in the horizon and it keeps kind of doing the tracking shot, and you're like, there's another, and you like, there's going to be a third one, and it's right now. That was beautiful. But yeah, I did feel like, especially because, like I said, that first big jump scare comes after feeling a little slow at the start and the pacing not working. I was kind of like, oh, slow pacing jump scares, great, I'm out. Like, I was a little bit like unimpressed by it. But I will admit, like, my favorite scare in Sinister is probably the lawnmower one. So it's hard for me to be like, the lawnmower one was peak cinema, but the under the bed jump scare. Because to be fair, as like, I even had that thought of like, Shay was like, I'm so sick of dream sequences in movies, in horror movies, and this movie is a lot of dream sequence horror. And then on top of it, like that one specifically, it was like, let's look under the bed. Oh, let's look under the other bed. And I was just like, this is a dream sequence where they check under the bed 3 times. And of course, it's followed up by just like, it was literally a film grain cut. Like when we do our outro here, it's the same lens flare flicker effect to the logo. It was like the flicker effect, dead boy under the bed. And I was just kind of like, that one to me felt a bit cheap. And again, I think I was already on that downhill of not liking the movie that much. But I was going to ask you guys, and specifically Shay, because we just talked about dream sequences in horror movies being a drawback. Did you not find any eye rolls to the type of scares in the dreams that we were having?
First of all, you're an absolute goober baby if that jump scare actually got you, because that was the most telegraphed thing I'd seen in history.
I remember I
of
jumped
jump
once. I
scares.
forgot the scene though, but I remember I jumped once. I
It
don't know which
definitely
one.
was not that one,
No,
because
not
I
that
would have
one for
judged
sure.
you so hard, because
It was
the most.
telegraphed, but it was so, at least in my theater, it was so loud.
We were
It
in
was
the
like,
AVX, so it was really loud
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah,
But
same
The
but
here.
most
yeah,
useless thing
the
is the
whole
EVX.
the whole theater
Yeah.
jumped at that, and then I rolled my eyes. I was like, oh well, this is fun. Like, it's nice to get scared with a bunch of strangers on a Thursday night. But I was like, compared to like the artfulness of some of the other shots, I was just like, that was literally just like telegraph, here it comes, there it is. And it was so just loud and like extreme close up bloody face, and I was just like, and it was like 2 seconds again.
There's a
Good
couple of
scare.
different components to this that I want to kind of get into, but I think, like, well, to answer your question, I think the dream sequences in this are not at all related to the ones I discussed last week with Good Boy, because my gripe with them in most horror movies is, generally speaking, that these kinds of things come in and they're meant to just be an unexplainable scare that we can just have a 5 to 10 minute sequence to plug into a movie, that we don't need to explain why the lady is there in weapons, for example, or whatever else. We can just say it was a dream. We can just say it was a dream, and then we can move on. The dreams in this are obviously completely interwoven into the story, and so like none of them feel like this, we just took a break for 10 minutes to have this sequence. Like each one of them was purposeful, whether it was character, story, whatever. They had reasons for all of those to exist. So that's not the same sort of kind of critique that I had before, although it was definitely like I literally had that thought while we're watching, and I'm like, well, it's nice to see a dream sequence that doesn't want to make me pull my hair out. So
well, because these dream sequences, like to agree with you there, you're right. Like thematically, I was trying to clickbait you to be like, oh, dreams, don't you hate dreams in horror? But yeah, these dreams actively explain the story and make progress in the movie. Where again, like we talk about, like I enjoyed Weapons, but I do agree, like that dream, like even Josh Brolin when he goes, "What the fuck?" is like that's so good because it kind of reflects the audience feeling of like, okay, that was spooky, but why? You know, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Hey, here's a big gun in the sky. I don't know why, but it's there. I'm like, cool.
Cool.
Man, that movie, bro.
Can't
do it.
Let's not relitigate that because I tend to agree on that one too. But no, I think, but like broadly speaking, more about kind of the atmosphere, because I think that's something important to discuss too, because there's movies like Sinister, like genuinely, I do believe Sinister is one of the scarier movies, certainly of the last 10, 13 years or whatever.
By science, it's like the most scary movie ever.
Yeah. People have like made polls online. It's like the scariest movies of all time. And I think Sinister is consistently number one or top 5.
I saw a list, granted also had Sinister in 1, but had Smile 1 and 2 on the same list in the top 10. I'm like, all right, get bent.
Fuck the second one. The second one was so bad.
Wow. Big smile guy here.
The first one was good, but second one, wow.
I like the first one more. The first one scared me genuinely. The second one I found really interesting.
The
and fun,
only good Smile movie is
cringe.
Ty Angus's short film Smile. And Paramount owes Ty royalties for stealing his name and concept. Not his concept at all, but at least the name. But yeah, so on an atmospheric level, the thing about this movie is that it really, to me, like part of the reason I think the character moments worked more for me in this movie than other ones is that this movie was really about those characters. It wasn't, and I don't mean like in a superficial way. I mean like the movie's intent was not to give us constant tension building moments one after the other. It wasn't about consistently scaring us with jump scares. It really was kind of a character story, and then they have this other stuff going on in the background. And that's why I think like it's the whole point of the movie first and foremost, where like, for example, and I feel bad that I rag on this as much as I do, but like in Abigail, when your whole conceited hook is a child vampire ballerina killer, that is why we're here and what the audience is showing up for. On a sequel, you know, and the first one, it was the Ethan Hawke show pretty much, which makes sense. On the sequel, but now we have to be with the characters that we were with before, and like having them have kind of more cohesive arcs and serious bits. I felt like the movie was very clear from the beginning, and I think this is our gripe where we talk about that beginning feeling so slow. It was really a lot of character development moments and setting up opportunities, understanding their relationships, and yes, again, like it's weird, not weird, I would say, but when it's crammed into the same movie as Ethan Hawke as a pseudo Freddy Krueger fighting you in your dreams, the natural instinct I have, even as someone that liked this movie more, is that I wanted more of the Ethan Hawke in the dreams doing nightmarish shit. And so I'm totally with you on all that, but I think that's the differentiator, because I found myself, even as the movie was concluding and we were seeing that extra, like you said, 10 minutes or whatever of these kind of character beats, where I was like, well, normally this is the exact thing I hate.
Normally you hate that, yeah.
But why do I not?
I didn't like it.
Well, but you can't tell me it didn't fit in with the rest of the movie. You can't tell me that.
Yeah,
as opposed to
Abigail, also
Abigail,
bloated at the start and in the middle.
Sure,
so it was bloated at
but
the end.
it was
fit in
part
that
of
way.
the movie, and it was paced out that way. In Abigail, when we get the one character beat in the middle of you running away from the new vampire, and you're like, "Baby, I love you," and I was such a terrible mom, and
I'm a single
like the
mom.
whole movie like screeches to a halt, and it does not at all really coexist, like make sense
Such
with
a
the rest
hater.
of the movie.
I
Like
would
that's where I think that goes. So
super agree, but I would say like I guess this is why like I think the character stuff, the character moments again well acted, but like let me hit you with some lines that really stood out to me. There was a line that was like Finn, you're just like dad trying to numb the pain, but you smoke weed instead. And I was just like, and that was again that action scene near the end when they're making the big choice to go fight the grabber, and it was like those kind of moments where it was like I just, to me, because I think I was kind of done with it. I was hearing some of those lines of just like, you're just like this thing that we have that we deal with. And even at the start with the dad, like I felt like the dad was like pretty irrelevant. Again, in the story that you found heartfelt and compelling, I found it an extra layer I didn't care for. Where it's like, okay, dad, don't you start drinking. He's like, I'm going to get my 3-year chip while you're gone, son. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Get to the grabber, get to the lake, get to the ice skating Ethan Hawke. That was the trailer shot that sold me on the movie. And like you said, that was the performance of the film. So like I agree with you. I know the intent was to make this about these characters and their growth, and it's seen. But I guess I wasn't caring for it when I was hearing some of those clunky like uh expositional moments of just like, yeah, again, the dad's sobriety. When they cut back to him watching like the beer commercial, I would have loved if he just relapsed completely, and then he's not there for his kids. And the more the
Wow.
story is, kids, don't trust your parents. Your mom was crazy, your dad is an alcoholic, but they all have to wrap a bow on the end of the movie. And I was just like,
I just have to
whatever.
say, I have to really appreciate a movie where Brandon gives so much credit to movies like Roofman, where the whole gimmick is that parents and family sucks and divorce is real and parents are shitty. And then God forbid we get a movie where the family stays together and the dad actually
And it's
shows up
lovely.
and is a good guy, and Brandon's like, this fucking sucks.
This is cheesy and lame,
This
dude.
thing's
Yeah.
fucking, that doesn't reflect the real life that I know, and you're all miserable about
Dude,
it.
even seeing Frankenstein, I was like, oh, dude, again, big year for divorced dad energy. It's all about a guy who's basically a bad
I think
parent
you
and
just
abandons
seek
his
that
child.
shit out, dude. Oh my god, you have to see that other movie we talked about, which hopefully we'll get to talk about next
Dude,
week.
if I went to actual therapy, I would be the worst podcast co-host. I would, they'd be sitting here like, I validate your opinion, and I do think that is an active response to what you were dealing with watching that movie, Shea. You'd be like, well, how would you feel? You're like, well, it was okay. I just wasn't for me. I would be so lame. I was so mellowed out. I need these daddy issues to keep reviewing movies at the ferocity that we're going at them for. But another line too, or another thing to that too, is like, again, I love the van kidnapping scene, and I did actually appreciate them coloring in the past to show like the mom's deal, because she was just not in the first movie. And I guess to the point of this is, I guess I was wondering your thoughts on that scene, because and again, this is like a Nightmare on Elm Street thing, and they did say that the grabber loves when you're afraid, but I feel like we saw so many flashbacks and things to like the kids in the woods and the premonitions of that, that when we go to that scene where he's like showing the abduction of the mom and stuff like that, great stuff, and glad it's there. I'm not complaining. But what I would say is, like, normally Shea would be the person that's like, why is he like seasoning them even more, being like, hey, here's some more backstory, even though I'm trying to kill you. Like, he tried to throw her in a furnace 40 minutes earlier in the movie, and then he's toying with her more, showing that backstory later in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he went from
I think
like
just to make
kill
her
mode.
fear more than before. Because, hey, I killed your mom, so you should fear me a little bit more, I guess.
But he almost killed her. Like, if he just did that again, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like,
Yeah, but it's too easy. You just want to play with the chick. That's all you want to do.
Yeah,
I guess
but like,
so.
I think on a baseline, there's a couple elements. Like, first of all, they explain it narratively, right? It's in the plot. Like, he's sustained based on the fear of these dead people. So obviously, if he can tweak out the people that are then dead afterwards, that makes sense. But you're basically complaining about showmanship, right? in the scene where he first confronts her and he slowly emerges with his arms stretched out from the darkness, toying with her. He's
Beautiful.
clearly playing it up. It's
Yeah.
showmanship, and that's like the serial killer gimmick of like playing with your food. So
And a
it
good slasher
totally
villain.
made sense. Like if he was like, he wasn't just trying, like you say, oh, he was trying to throw her in the oven. You overlooked the like 6, 7 other completely unnecessary wall throws and pan throws and things he did otherwise.
Yeah,
to
that
like
was pretty
get
Looney
there.
Tunes. I like that a lot.
Right,
Whereas,
and so, like,
That was
that was
lovely.
pretty good.
I think
nice.
it really, like, again, like, listen, I don't want to gaslight Brandon into
Linda, listen.
eternity on this one. Yeah, Linda, listen, Linda. I don't think it's a coincidence that Brandon has shitty days, goes into these movies, and comes out with shitty feelings over little things like this. That makes sense in the context of the movie, but maybe
Rewatch
because
it
their
later
dad
on.
loved them in the movie, Brandon's really fucking like, fuck these people,
I
and hates that.
I would say I rented a van to move, like it was a work vehicle. I rented a van to move, and on the day where I was moving all my heavy furniture, doing hundreds of trips, like everyone knows what it's like to move, unless you're, you still live at home, and I'm good for you. I'm jealous. But still, the point is I rented a van to move, and I smoked it in my underground parking garage. I put a giant dent the size of like a football on the driver door, and now I'm freaking out because I'm like, I've just damaged this property that like I'm renting. I'm like, what's good? Like I was stressed to the teeth. And then I went to go see Frankenstein when I didn't want to even go see it. I was pro wait for streaming. Then I saw Frankenstein and I was like, what a lovely experience. So I do agree with you that you can have bad days, but I really, again, and this is what I'm trying to contextualize with Black Phone, was the escapism I wanted from Black Phone, I didn't get. But when I was completely turned off, I thought I'd go into Frankenstein and come out with like another, like, oh, I can't wait to nitpick this one on the podcast vibe. I ended up leaving the movie that I didn't want to see being like, wow, I can't wait to gas that up. And on this movie, I wanted to gas up. Again, maybe it's the E word, expectations. I went in with expectations because I liked the first one. I like Ethan Hawke. Again, the Toronto production, like Frankenstein, which I'm sure we'll cover eventually. There's all these little things. So I do agree, like your day does affect your experience with a movie. But
When you said you saw the trailer too, eh?
So for the trailer though, like I saw the trailer for Black Phone 2 and I was skeptical. And even when I had friends like 10 months ago say, oh, I'm working on the Black Phone sequel, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I like the first movie. I wonder how they're going to continue the story. Like I had an organic interest in this movie before the trailer, and then seeing the trailer and it was like a winter horror. I think I really like winter horror because winter to me is like really scary and depressing. It's like, I think like
there's not enough
winter horror. I wanted to go see Midsummer on the premise that I thought daylight, summer. I was gonna be like, what a challenge to make summer look scary. Because even slashers that take place at summer camp.
Jason. That's all he does.
Yeah. Well, even slashers at summer camps, you're like, well, summer camp is fun and it gets scary, but it's like a lot of night shots or whatever, and isolation. And this movie does kind of the best of both of the winter horror at a summer camp or winter camp, they call it. So again, like atmospherically, they set a lot of groundwork up, and in the trailers, I was really excited because again, it's wintertime. It's got this paranormal serial killer with a pretty iconic look in the making. And again, they showed the grabber on ice skates in the trailer. I'm like, no way, dude.
That's brutal.
That was a crazy shot.
I wish that sucks actually that they did that because I had no idea.
Maybe it
overhyped
me, the ice skate grabber.
Well, but that, and also like I remembered, like I was surprised, like I said, that's why I brought up the point about Shayflation in terms of my movie ratings, is that I don't look back on the original one. Well, I don't look back on the original one overwhelmingly fondly on a movie level. Obviously I do for sentimental reasons, but like I didn't remember loving the movie or anything like that when I saw it. And so like I went in, when I heard about this, is like, oh fuck, like I was in the opposite camp of like, oh, I thought the other one was fine. I don't really think I care that much, but like hopefully Ethan Hawke's good again. Like that was the extent of kind of the expectation that I had. And yeah, like this was, for me, I think like I just really liked it in terms of like the setting and stuff too you set up. Like I totally agree. It's I'm surprised we don't get way more of that, all things considered.
I think
Yeah.
people just ate on it mostly because they love the first one, and it's such a jump from the first one. It's not the same whatsoever. It reminds me of Terrifier 1 and 2, when it's like
Yeah.
a really big jump between the first one and the second one. With the second one, they go a little bit like sci-fi by the end, and the kills are just crazier, which I love though. And it's like a 15 minutes of the freaking clown cafe that I'm going to shoot myself about. But like it's like a big jump from the first one and the second one. I think the Black Phone 1 and the Black Phone 2 is like the same thing. So people are just gonna hate it because it's not the same thing as the first one whatsoever. But it's still like on its own. This is just amazing movie. I think I gave it like a 4.5,
You
but I'm
gave
a
it a
little
4.5, which is
I'm
a
a little
whole
crazy,
star
but
rating
whatever. Just
higher
for the
than
grabber,
mine.
dude. Like for the grabber himself, just I had to give him like 4.5 because he looks so freaking. He looks amazing. I think it's like the best killer we've had in probably years. Like the best killer aesthetic, like the mask, and when it takes off the whole mask and you see like the
Yeah.
bloody face and all that stuff, and you see the ice case or just like iced out onto his leg. It was like awesome to
Yeah.
see. It was.
And
I
even
think
the
it's like the
way he
best killer we had in
emerged,
years.
when he
Ah, yeah.
emerged from
He's
that,
like
like kind of the cloud
theatrical, crazy
coverage.
guy.
Oh yeah, like through the
Love the
smoke
guy.
of the ice thing. Like I thought that was a really funny bit. And I love too the way they like wove that together. Like again, it's not one of those things like, oh wow, they got really lucked out, or like, oh no, we called him Wild Bill Hickok, and that was he worked at
That
the
was good.
camp and was like, because I was kind of confused when it started and we saw like, because I assumed obviously that it was just he killed these kids back in the day or something. But then when I like they show like the one kid get killed and you see like a shirtless dude and running around, I'm like, oh, it's like was that like I was like, is this somebody else? Like what's going on?
Uh,
And it's like, oh no, like they had the picture of them at the family thing, and I think that's always like a funny bit when they're like, oh my god, he was there at the same time as our mother was. Like
Dude.
that made me laugh. I got
Dude,
a good giggle out of that.
I made my horror short film that's about like a cult guy on a cottage property, and that was how I ended. Like that exact shot where the
Yeah,
plot
that's right.
twist is like he's not immortal, but he's been around for like
The Shining.
generations. Yeah, and it was basically that. It was a slow pan, racking focus from the people in the foreground of the black and white like camp photo. And then it pans over and you see my guy. To be fair, I was my own art department, so I photoshopped him onto some midsummer looking stock photo. But that was it. I had a physical painting hung in this haunted house or haunted cottage. And then it just like, and I was very much like, oh, I'm getting a vibe from this that he's going to be in the photo. But I was going to say, based on what we were just talking about, as far as like a good continuation and what we were talking about at the start, as far as like, the grabber is iconic and becoming an icon, and I think he needs more installments. Currently, the box office on this for the opening weekend worldwide is about 42 million, which is above its 30 million budget. So it's doing well. It's basically about
we're
to break
getting a
even.
third one.
In theory, like if it gets to 60, that's a success because usually marketing is double the budget. So compared to like say Tron Ares that like has bombed phenomenally. And other like tons of bombs this year. Like even one after another great movie is going to be $100 million loss. They're saying so because again, marketing is usually something that almost doubles budget according to a lot of reports. But my point to this, if there was a third movie, if they made this a trilogy. Personally, and not because I was like a hater on this one, I don't know story wise where they could go other than somebody else picking up the mantle and replacing Ethan Hawke or Ethan
Oh
Hawke
no.
possessing a new guy because they've kind of bookended a prequel because they've shown him at the camp. And that story, they bookended the end of it twice now where he's definitively killed in the spirit realm and in the,
Yeah.
where do you think they could go forward? Because I wouldn't mind a third installment, because I feel like you can appreciate genre movies like this as like a property that gets expanded, like like again Friday the 13th when Jason goes to space, and Jason X, it's like that's crazy, and Jason
Beautiful.
goes to New York. It's like those are crazy fish out of water versions of the story, but it adds to that icon legendary feeling.
Yeah.
Where do you guys think this could go? Do you think they could prequelize it to add more to the back, or do you
Nah.
feel what could
I
they
don't
do?
want I don't want a prequel. I want like a follow up. The thing is, like the beauty thing with slashers is that they don't fucking die. That's all they do. Terrifier, the guy died fucking 100 times, is still coming back. Ghostface dies, but like another one picks up. That's another. part of it.
Yeah,
Like this
I love
another
the
thing though.
copycat mythos of Ghostface,
Yeah.
but like
But
all I could
that's not
think,
gonna be with the grabber. I think the grabber, Ethan Hawke actually said like he wants to bring the grabber to hell. So
oh, that'd be
what I
cool.
think is
I
gonna
was
be like he's gonna
literally,
bring
yeah.
the two kids back to his own place, like kind of like Freddy did, and he's just gonna go from there. That's what's gonna happen with Terrifier also in the fourth one. Too, but
Yeah,
whatever.
do you think
do the
do you think the
opposite.
daughter becomes an alcoholic 40 years later and she's in an alcohol induced coma
She's
which
gonna be
she
a
then
great
has to
mom.
fight him? Yeah, yeah, right. So, yeah, O'Shea, where do you think they go with it? Like, can it go anywhere? I don't
Well,
know if they can do prequel
I
or
was in the same camp sort of as you in terms of the after effect, where I was like, I said to Kevin, because he was saying, oh, a third one as soon as we got out of the theater. And I was just like, well, I feel like they got lucky. Like the things that you said bothered you a little bit about the sequelitis. It didn't bother me, but I was like, they were lucky. And like
yeah.
I said that to Kevin, I'm like, you're lucky that you could make those things feel as organic as possible. If you try and do any further elaboration, like it's hard. It's not impossible. It's just hard. As far as like it does feel definitively bookended here. However, you're killing a ghost.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
there's no irrational, like that's the part, like I find the narrative, the story would be the harder thing to recalibrate for a third one, but you can bring him back however you want, or do the John Wick 5 pitch where it's like,
Yeah,
actually
pretty
now
much.
the grabber's in
Fight
hell,
his way to
and
hell.
yeah, like obviously we need
Dude,
Freddy v Jason v Grabber
dude,
v Michael, whatever that's
the
gonna be called.
grabber v Dahmer, the grabber v John Wayne
I'll keep them
Gacy,
away of the friggin' Netflix fucking
the
whatever
Netflix Dark
these,
Avengers.
yeah, whatever the hell they're calling the monsters. I don't want to
Yeah,
Oh,
even
the
even
Ed
like
fucking
Gein
Pennywise.
story.
Pennywise died
contemplate
at
that.
at the end, and then he goes into his like little hole, whatever, and then he gets healthier, and then
Yeah.
he comes back.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And Pennywise feeds on fear and has like that
Yeah.
kind of like mind possession. So yeah, like I mean, aside from like a Grabber X Pennywise Fortnite collab, I also don't quite like know where. I'm sure they'll find a way. Like if they got lucky this time, they might get lucky again.
Oh yeah.
Oh, if
But
I had to
yeah,
bet money, they're not getting lucky a third time. I would
no,
be like, if they're
it's
like, we're
lightning in a
doing it
bottle.
again, I'm gonna be like,
Yeah,
The third
okay.
one is more gonna be for me, probably.
yeah. Well,
No
so
story, just fucking stabbing. That's all I want.
because that's the thing too is like even like story wise, like I was thinking about this, and like you said, Shea, he's like I wish they went crazier, went harder, and they do look pretty crazy and hard in this one compared to the first one, especially where it was a very contained like bottle
Yeah.
episode of a guy in a basement, remote location, isolation. Here's remote, etc. But they have more people to like burn through and like assault because there's not a lot of death until the end, but it's like the people are getting
Even
messed
in the
up
end,
and
he haven't slashed anyone. He haven't killed
yeah.
anyone.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
here's
say
The other guy
nobody
are still
dies in
living.
the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody died in the movie.
I think the one chick gets a broken nose from tripping, maybe. But like, I think by the end of it, though, my thought was like you said, Shay, like this is where it could fall into Kevin's category of like fun slasher again. They Freddy Krueger
wish.
treatment him all the way, and for whatever reason, does the camp get rebooted? And now Finn is like a youth worker, or like. But my other thing too is if he does do the slasher thing, and we get a body count of like 8 to 12 kids minimum, at that
we
point.
see.
At that point, because like you said, you're killing a ghost, it's like Ghostbusters level paranormal activity where it's like, oh yeah, it's pretty common knowledge in the world of this movie that you can be picked up and strangled in your sleep because it's happened 3 or 4 movies in a row and there's been reported incidences. You know what I mean? Like the small scale of the first movie made sense that this paranormal thing was so contained. And here they open it. But yeah, if they do a third one, I do feel like, yeah, it would become like... yeah, so is anybody able to explain the phenomena of those 12 kids who, got strangled and choked out, and then they have to make a red herring of like, it was the groundskeeper. It definitely wasn't a ghost again. Like, I'm not nitpicking something that hasn't happened, but you can kind of see like, you wonder thematically and tonally if they just kind of go a complete different direction. Does it become a slasher comedy? Because I don't fully know how you could do it successfully and capture the lightning in a bottle, like you said, Shay, getting lucky that a sequel worked when you didn't initially think it would. So yeah, I'm kind of perplexed. Like I would love to
Honestly,
hear pitches.
though, they went from pretty young Ethan Hawke to like Ethan Hawke current or whatever in the original. what did he do between being the killer in the first one and the camp counselor? There's a whole middle area. He could have worked at some other town doing something
Black
else.
Phone 3 Legacy, and it's just him. It's like a middle prequel, like kind of like I always reference like Book of Boba Fett being like season 3.5 of The Mandalorian, you know, where it's just like you know, it's like he kills his mom in the opening, and then after that he spends 10 years killing the boys, and some of those boys have premonitions, and there's fan service callback to when Finn saw them in the first movie. Like, to me that sounds a little miserable because I don't think I'm that big a fan, but you know what I mean. Like, I feel like you know, the world's their oyster, but it also like it's tough because they have made 2 conclusive movies.
I feel like Halloween Legacy sequel style, they're going to be like, okay, the grabber somehow came back with just enough strength to kill Finney, which has caused his sister to become an alcoholic like their dad, because alcohol suppresses her dream nonsense, and
the
she's
devil's
fighting
lettuce.
it down. And so the fact that she can suppress her dream powers, the fucking grabber is getting more powerful by fucking with other people, and he's growing, and that's the whole narrative, is that she needs to get over her alcoholism because people are dying and she's not doing anything to help, and she's the only one that can help. Lori, you're our final hope. I mean, Gwen.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, which is what I'm hearing, you want a 2025 Black Phone where, because phones are now digital devices everyone has, he's infinitely more powerful, and there's a podcast group that tries to research Ethan Hawke. And by researching him, they re-evoke the memories of the past, which brings him back in through a smartphone. And now it's a commentary on social media being ever present in your life.
They're not
podcasters. I don't want a Gen Z movie.
They're not podcasters in the new one. They're going to be TikTokers, first of all.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, and he's in the background of all their 4K footage instead of film grain.
Yeah, and it's all shot on hand. Like, they're way lower brow. It's got to be more like Gen. And though the advantage of this pitch is that we hate all the Gen Zers, so like we're really rooting for him to kill all these annoying TikTok kids.
And in the
have you seen the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre? That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I heard it sucked. I didn't watch that.
Well, just
but he just killed every
Scott Derrickson and
guy.
Ethan Hawke doing it, I'd be much more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Just like the like any Legacy sequel, but I would say I know you did last summer. Reboot Legacy sequel, requel, or whatever.
That was awful. That wasn't that bad though.
What you gotta have is you gotta have Finn showing up in the third act at a bar or something, and he'll be smoking weed, and he's like, "Hey kids, been here before," and then there's a Marvel style applause break, you know, where they expect people like, "Wow, Finn from the first 2 movies in 2025 and 2019," and then that's when, because here's what I'm saying is, like, we're all kind of in our early 30s ish. But when we're like 56, hopefully still doing this, we'll be like, Brandon, pull up the clip, dude. When we said like this would be the worst Hollywood pitch meeting video of like, yeah. But on the note of smartphones, I would say too, this is probably a better segue to your thing at the end. But I just remembered in my screening, I had 3 queens sit in front of me. I picked a section where there's nobody near me. And these 3 women sat completely in the wrong seat, dead set right in front of me. And they kept checking their phone. And eventually I had moved. But before I had moved to be less bothered by it.
Coward.
I would have moved also anyway.
Yeah, it was like, it was a mostly empty theater, and I was the only one being victimized by their ignorance. Anyways, but the point of the story is...
Oh, that makes it better. There's only one victim. Don't dance around this. I'm not letting you skip through this. You're fucking way too big to be this much of a bitch, okay? If people are being assholes and you're the only one fucking bothered by that, fucking yell at them anyway, dude.
To be fair...
There can be no mercy. No mercy. No forgiveness.
To be fair, I'll tell you the off air about how I fought a homeless guy on my way home, and I think it's my pent-up aggression for these ladies, because basically
it's not healthy to hold that in, man. You got to get that out of you.
You got to get it out. But so basically, no, the one lady, she would check her phone, like, and to be fair, respectfully, like she would go, yeah, she pulls out her phone and she checks it, puts it away, you know, and it's kind of whatever. But then the one lady, she would put her hoodie over like a blanket to text. And then I'm like, you're trying, but you're obnoxious. Anyways, on the way out of the theater, the one lady, She had a letterbox tote bag, and I'm like, oh, dude, I hate that going to the movies is like a performative thing for some people. Because clearly, if you were a letterbox film enthusiast, somebody who we would say is like an audience member who wants to hear opinions and just loves talking about movies, you would know better than to even just do the blanket thing at the theater. Like it's considerate, but it's still obnoxious. So not as bad as I think your moviegoers in your theater, or the women in your theater, but oh yeah, and same group of girls, 22 at best. And trust me, I'm 300 pounds. I work a blue collar job basically. My back hurts, but this like 22-year-old, like I say reasonably in shape woman kept getting up and stretching in the movie theater, like full stretching it out. And like she had her nails did too. And a few times like she'd go like, yep, and like do one of those. And like I was just like, what are you doing, sparkle toes? Like put your hands away. But yeah,
my favorite thing, by the way, about Brandon's lighting here is that it looks like we're interviewing him in a way that he's supposed to be anonymous. Like we're just like,
Black Phone 2 was not that good. I didn't like it very much. But don't tell people I said that. I know the people that worked on it.
Well, I have a couple final things here before we totally wrap up. One thing I didn't address earlier when Brandon was bringing up specific line gripes, which to be clear, I think are fairly valid. Like they were not
his one-liners were pretty freaking good though.
Well, okay, the thing
the driver's one-liners were good.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I really did not like any time the girl was being edgy. It did never work for me a single time. When she's like, you fucking whatever, she'd have all these dumb, elaborate bits. Never one of those did they work for me ever.
She would also say for real a lot. Did you notice that? She would say like, we'll do it for real this time.
Real.
I promise for real. And I'm like, saying for real or FR is kind of modern,
at the start where it was like, oh, it wasn't gas, but she said something about like the tickets or whatever. And I was just like, I don't know, like none of her lines in that way worked. And again, I think there was some eye rolls in the serious part for sure. However, you are overlooking, which to me is the coldest horror movie line of the year that I can think of.
Yeah,
when he's on the phone and he hits him with like, you know, like hell and talking about that in the context. And he goes, nothing burns like the cold. I was like, oh shit, dude. Like I was fucking, I'm like, that was a line. Like as soon as they're like, can we do a second one? And they had that line, they're like, dude, we have to, like, that was the
they're like, let him cook. He's got one.
Let him cook, dude. That was such a cold, literally no pun intended line.
No pun
I was
intended.
like,
you said
oh, that
up.
shit is so sweet. I fucking loved that. But I want to kick it for the last word before I do our sign off this week to our special guest, Kevin. Why should people listen to me and you instead of Brandon and go see Black Phone 2 right now in theaters?
All right, look, the first 15 is a little long. I get it. It's mostly character driven, but usually I don't care at all about character movies. Like, I just want people to die and just in a fun and nice way, you know, whatever. But that one did it pretty good. The ending was a little sketchy. I was waiting, like when she talks to her mom, and I was waiting for the grab to take over the calls and just like, hey, I'm gonna get you, little shit, and whatever. That left me over my little hunger a little bit. But yeah, just for the grabber, just for like iced out grabber, cold and fleshy, is just amazing. He's gonna be like an icon if we get like a third and a fourth one. If he eventually slashes people, I want him to kill people that actually haven't killed anyone yet. Like I watched Sleepy Hollow earlier today, and it was like way more slashing in Sleepy Hollow than in the grabber in the Black Phone 2. I don't know why, but
actually, Kevin, I would say too, like I don't know if you thought this, but like as like a horror guy too, like when you think about the Friday the 13th franchise, there's that really iconic ending where he comes out of the lake and he grabs the girl.
Yeah.
You know, I genuinely was expecting that because when he gets defeated at the end, he gets put in the lake. I was somewhat expecting them to like look out on the lake one last time and out of the ice a hand and they would cut to black. I think that for me would have done enough to gut punch and be like, ooh, there's more happening. But yeah,
that's
when
the thing, though. That would have implied the third one. And the return, the writer don't want to do that. You just want to self-contain the whole movie. So that's why I think the third one is going to be like another completely different thing. Hopefully they stay in like the slasher lane. That's what I love. What's probably going to happen, because the grabber is like a slasher horror making, like it's going to get there, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's why I want like everyone to go see it and not listen to Brendan.
Yeah, don't wait for
Well-
streaming is Kevin's point. My point was keep it for streaming.
Yeah, pretty much. Go get him
If
some
you're
money.
mildly curious, I always say if you're mildly curious, see it in theaters. That's the best way to experience a movie.
Oh yeah, the cinematography is great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess, and some of those again for Brandon's a fucking grouchy bitch, dude. That Super 8 shit was cool as fuck. And Ethan Hawke, although limited, admittedly, shines in those moments when he's there. And it's definitely
The face and the snow on the window. That was dope.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a great.
That was a
sequence
good
in the
scene.
booth
Yeah.
That was a
too.
nice
Yeah.
one.
And I love just, by the way, how fucking stupid that snowman looked. Like, just the fact that it was there. I'm like, is the implication that he
made a little snowman. There you go.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes, for you,
Like,
boy.
Yeah, that was like, again, the more I thought about that, the harder I was laughing.
I do got to say too, I forgot to mention it earlier, talking about like characters and that, because we're going to close out this shortly, but I was going to say, truly, I should have really been on board with this movie because it had a lot of things I like, but I forgot to mention there's a hot Latina who's named after a Mustang. Like, you're like, oh, look, the car. And yeah, she's sick and a badass and obviously hot, and she does all the like best stuff in the movie. So I was like, in theory, on a bro level, I'm like, yeah, this had everything I would have wanted.
Anything.
Doesn't really do anything, you know, but it's like she's just there. Yeah, exactly. It's like she's a trad hot Latina named Mustang, and I still wasn't like, wow, you know.
Pretty sure she's native though.
Oh no, well, no, wasn't she? Wasn't the dad? What was the dad's name again? I thought he was Hispanic because the other guy spoke Spanish, and that was his daughter. So I assume she was Hispanic.
Either way, though, Brandon, I just looked her up. She was in A Working Man.
No,
I think she was
she the daughter?
Yeah, she is known for co-starring in the film A Working Man.
Nice.
Oh wow, that's a full circle moment for us there, eh? Holy jumping.
I do appreciate having a horror enthusiast on the podcast, somebody who's also keen on movie scores, and it's nice to hear somebody's voice that's not just Shea's or my own for once. I haven't had the guest appearance because I think I was out for Toxic Avengers, so it's been nice having you, Kevin.
That was awful.
Yeah.
Well,
as you can tell in this episode, Kevin
man.
is not a short form guy on his hot takes for horror. So I think maybe not this year because we're already kind of running out on the spooky season. But next year we're gonna bring Kevin back for a special episode where we can do a top 10 favorite horror movies list. And
I love Abigail.
Really
Abigail was great. Ready or Not was great. Everything Radio Silence does was
Ready
fucking
or
amazing.
Not was
I'm in the same boat. I think a lot of Radio Silence is great. I liked Abigail significantly more than Shea. That's why, again, I thought Shea would be where I was at on this movie. Because, but anyways, not to relitigate. But but anyways, I was gonna say, Kevin, I think you're one of my favorite Letterboxd accounts because every now and then I get really in my head about reviewing a movie or talking about it on the podcast. But you'll always have a review of a movie that I thought was like okay, but you found a ton of reasons to love something, or a movie I thought was good and largely accepted, and you'll be the guy that's like again, Weapons, just being like, what a waste of time.
So far, my favorite movie of the year is Peter Pan, Neverland Nightmare. So, you know, that tells you a lot about it.
Well,
I
was
still
gonna say,
can never predict his stuff either.
Yeah, you should. Before we close out, do you want to plug your Spotify or your Letterboxd for any enthusiasts? Feel like you're a great friend of the podcast.
My Letterboxd is Kevin Wildside. I'm not even sure. I think it's Kevin Wildside, and Spotify is the Wildside.
Spotify is the Wild Side.
Yeah,
both of them will be in the description or whatever of this video, wherever you're watching or
linked
listening.
below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell.
Yeah, he's dropping some really awesome little score pieces that I think are really cool. And if you need some spooky music going into the Halloween season, you're having a party, whatever you want,
I got one coming up on Halloween. That's going to be a nice one.
All right, so Shea and I really like Kevin's composing, and Lord knows if we ever created anything other than a podcast where we rip on movies or praise them to high heaven for an hour and a half, we would love to use his music for it. So check him out on Spotify.
I'll be there.
And but yeah, so on that note, Shea, theater etiquette wise, I feel like you said you had a good one cooking this week, and by that I mean a terrible moviegoer.
I said earlier in the episode that a theater is always the best way to experience a movie. But if you get there, don't be a coward like Brandon. If someone is scrolling their Tinder, swiping left and right in front of you, tell them to put their phone away. And if they don't, then really yell at them to put their phone away. And I promise you that they'll put their phone away or they'll leave.
But the worst part is, I checked our seats earlier, and we're like just us two and two other people in front of us, or like a row in front of us. Dude, then I get in the theater, we only two in a row, and the chick just booked the ticket right beside me. So we're like, the only three, like, dude, like just get a seat, at least like one seat off between us two, you know?
Yeah.
So was it Shea, you, and then her on the end?
Yeah.
So was Shea leaning over you to tell her to stop being a horn dog, or what?
The Twitter or the Tinder person was in front of us, but there was a girl there was only the three of us in our whole row. We had got our tickets first. She bought the ticket directly beside Kevin, like elbow to elbow.
Yeah, she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get a ticket right beside that."
And it was a mostly empty theater. So buy that one. And like there was more middle seats like right nearby. Like, she would have been totally fine. But
see, if I was you guys, I would have just moved one over just to be like,
we did.
That's what I did.
Kevin did.
Yeah. Just to be like, you're gross. Like etiquette wise, like just take 2-3 steps away. There's still like 20 amazing seats in like 100-seat theater, and if you said there's only 5 people in there.
Oh, there was way more. Yeah, there was there was maybe 20 people, 25 people in the whole thing, and there was much more. It was the AVX theater, so there's plenty of room for people. But yeah,
which I hate also.
But this is why you have to stand up for yourself and say things. Speak up, okay? Don't be a friggin' bootlicking coward like Brandon.
So all in all, what you're saying is no matter how big the theater is, there's no room for people swiping on Tinder in the middle of a movie.
Indeed. Yep.